Everyone, I'm Gemma Star, and welcome to another episode of Heart Warriors. Heart Warriors is a series I've been guided and inspired to do thanks to my energetic connection with Kata Judah. Kata Judah is the sacred masculine site in Central Australia, very close to Uluru, our sacred feminine site. So what I'm here to do is to interview men, give them a platform to share their journey into the heart, predominantly with other men, but of course with us women watching as well. We find out about their rock bottom moment, childhood challenges, what tools, practices, insight, wisdom have they picked up along the way that they can now share with others walking that path. Now, today's guest is a man from Perth, Australia, and his name is Benjamin Carter. And Benjamin, when I asked him for a mini bio with his labels to find out about him, to let you guys know, he said, "My life purpose is assisting others to know thyself and the reason they are here on earth." Now, Benjamin has an incredible story from the little tidbits that he already shared with me. So really excited to be looking into that and hearing all about Benjamin's journey into the heart. Enjoy. Hello, Benjamin Carter. Welcome to Heart Warriors. How's Perth these days?
Always sunny in Perth and always hot. But this year it's actually hasn't been as hot as normal, and it's been very windy. So, yeah, obviously they must not have the weather modification over in Perth this year.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so let's find out a little bit about you. Now, I also always like to ask the men who they are inside without their external labels and castle. Who is the man inside this body?
The man inside this body is all about truth. Basically, all my life it was about being normal, and being normal is actually not being natural. And being natural is aligning yourself with God's laws. And being normal is what society is programming into our subconscious mind. So for me, it's actually aligning myself with God's natural rhythm, and then that aligns myself with my soul's purpose. And so basically, it's being in that frequency of love, which is the middle way, and the being inside our heart. So basically, yeah, in relation to that, it's more based on the heart.
I like that. Very appropriate for this show. So let's find out how you got to be the man you are today. Let's go back to little Ben. What was his biggest challenge growing up?
So my biggest challenge was my parents. My dad being an anger addict and a narcissist, and mum being a victim. They had their divine masculine and feminine switched around. So you had my dad, who he was physically abusive to me and to my mother as well. And so I had these childhood traumas as a child, and basically seeing my mother getting belted up all the time, and also myself, basically had me in a state of fear, which then anything related to fear that's repressed becomes panic, and then that panic then affects you later on in life. So basically my childhood was about escaping, and that was the first escape for me was playing sport. And so it was playing football, basketball, tennis and swimming at top levels, at state levels. I was a state champion swimmer. And so my life was all about escaping. And because if I wasn't playing sport, I'd be getting in trouble from my dad. And he showed no love to me as a child, whereas my mum actually smothered me with love. So we had, both sides that weren't good and that affected me as an adult. So then when I became 18 and the sporting career ended with a traumatic accident of breaking my ankle and my leg at the same time, and then not being able to escape in that manner, it was, what was the actual next savior going to be? And that's when I went on to alcohol, and then drinking a lot of alcohol, then and eating a lot of junk food, and became toxic in the body and then the mind, without resolving any of these traumas, then it created a huge problem. And so that's my childhood, leading up to the adult years. Do you want me to talk about that further, or just want to leave that there? Or
Yeah, I'd like to. I'd like you to speak to other men that maybe grew up in a similar situation with domestic violence at home. I can't imagine from a child's point of view how difficult that must be. So, can you talk to those men and let them know um, just how give them some insights as to how they can begin the healing journey?
okay, so if we don't deal with those traumas, then you're going to be jumping from one savior to the other. So for me, it was alcohol, and then it was finding a love in my life. And then when I met her, she was a recreational drug taker. So then, me being so weak and wounded, I just began to take drugs. So then all of a sudden, the next savior is being not addicted to drugs, but taking drugs on a regular basis every weekend for a period of maybe 6 years. So that was, that savior. And then I had my first divine intervention in my late 20s, when basically it was like hearing a little voice saying, no more taking those drugs anymore. They're toxic. Basically, we need to do something with our life. And around that time is when I read the book Think and Grow Rich and The Science of Getting Rich. And that resonated with me, with that language. And so basically from that point, I actually wanted to better myself in life. And I was still working as an accountant at the time, but just cruising in life and not really putting any effort into anything, and being completely lost with any purpose of what I'm here to do. It was just about escaping. So basically, I then began to learn everything in relation to reprogramming the mind. And this is the most important thing, is because we have about 30,000 thoughts per day, and 90% are repetitive, and about 70 or 80% are deemed negative. So if you're getting this, in the first 6 years of a child's life, everything goes into there without any filter. So you're looking at, so whatever my parents were saying to me with their low self-esteem and all their problems, that was going into my subconscious mind without any filter. And then from the age of 7 years of age, you get that filter and you go into alpha brainwave state to about 13, and then you go into a beta brainwave state in what we're talking about now. And then when you become an adult, it's very hard to change that program, because you have to get back into a theta brainwave state. And that is from meditation, hypnosis, and plant medicine. So for me as an adult, I was learning how the mind works, and that you need to alter your brainwave states into theta to be able to make the changes in the subconscious mind. So then we can change that tape recording program. So instead of that 90% every single day being a low vibration, I'm replacing those beliefs and inner representations with actual truth, and then a higher self-esteem. And then all of a sudden you're vibrating at a higher state, closer towards love. And that's effectively what I did. Was I began to to get into meditation, into hypnosis, and then that led to plant medicine, and then to Kriya Yoga, which is an advanced technique of breath control, which eliminated all those traumas and those feelings towards my parents. And now there's unconditional love towards them.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's get into this Kriya Yoga. I don't know much about it. I'm a yogi, but I do other types of yoga. And we've had someone on here with talking about Kundalini Yoga. So please tell us what Kriya Yoga is and its benefits.
So Kriya Yoga is just it's a meditation technique. And so meditation, just want to explain what meditation is. So meditation is a complete dissolution of the mind. So you're dissolving the mind where there is no thought, okay? And a lot of people get confused when they're doing like guided meditations, for example. Now, guided meditations, there's still an attachment there, and you're still having thought. So the whole purpose of meditation is to have no thought. So it's take no thought for your life. So basically, when you begin to practice meditation, your mind is thinking all the time. And basically, we need to get to the state where we dissolve the mind and there is no thought. And basically, from that state, it's a feeling state. And then we can connect to the higher chakras, the sixth and then the crown chakra. So basically, Kriya Yoga is just a breathing technique that involves 8 different techniques to be able to eventually open up the Sushumna channel, which is the middle spiritual channel that goes up the spine. And basically, that's what creates the inner calmness within the body. And so you're looking at, 8 different techniques that, there's breathing techniques, and there's controlling the breath through each of the chakras. And there's a couple of yoga techniques in there as well. But effectively, we are getting into the state of no mind, so there's no thought. And only in that state can we connect to God. And this is what I wanted to talk about is, a lot of people don't actually know, who am I as in the self, and who am I as in what God is, and what is our purpose for being here. So basically, if you read the scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, all the other Vedic scriptures, the Brahma Sutras, and you've got the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and the Tao Te Ching, they all say the same thing, and they all are talking about metaphorical interpretations of what we should be doing inside our bodies. But getting back to the definition of what God is you hear God is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, the manifested and the unmanifested, the creator and the creation, everything and nothing. So basically, it's saying that I am God and God is in me. And so we're looking at the definitions in the Upanishads. It says God is Om, which is spelled A-U-M. A is the unmanifested God, the creator. U is the astral plane, which is the breath, and M is the gross physical body. So basically, and then in the ancient Egyptians, they say all is Atum, and it's just adding a T to that, and the T represents the torus field, and the torus field and the atom is the actual atom within every cell of the body. And so that's what the connection to all of our cells are connected to everything that's going up in the outer sky. We're just a microcosm of the macrocosm. So basically, it's atomology, which is etymology, which is the divine connection with sacred geometry. And so we need to have that meaning of what God actually is. And most people try and perceive God with the senses, and the mind, but God resides in a higher place than that, in the sixth chakra and the top of the crown chakra. And the only way you can get there is through the breath. And so this is where the Kriya Yoga meditation technique enables you to climb up Jacob's ladder through breath control, to take you up to meet God face to face up in the sixth chakra and then the seventh chakra. And that's the whole purpose of what life is. And so breath control, my analogy is to, if you're a skier, for example, and you go on the ski lift. On the ski lift, you'll notice that it doesn't change its speed the whole time when it goes up the top of the mountain and then it goes down. And so basically that's how your breath has to be. So breath control is basically you're breathing through the nostrils, and then you're breathing up the back of the spine and then down the front. So up the back, and it's like the ski lift. It's slow, subtle, feeble, and rhythmic, and it doesn't stop up the top. There's no pause. And then it's a flow, and you got to control. It's like you're having a remote control of your breath, and you're controlling it all the way down to the root chakra, and then you're bringing it back up to the crown chakra. And that's what breath control is. And we have about 21,600 breaths per day. And our aim is to reduce that to 2,000 per day over our lifetime. Because you look at all the animals in nature that live the longest, they have the shortest breathing patterns, like the tortoise and us, mankind. And the ones that live the shortest, like the dogs and the monkeys, they have the fastest breathing patterns. So the breath really is the number one thing for your health. And it's that rhythmic breath control that is, you're controlling the breath up and down the spine in a slow, subtle manner where you can barely feel the breath going in and out of your nostrils. That's what breath control is all about.
Oh, this is fascinating. Are you saying this is the only way that we can connect with God, to do Kriya Yoga?
Not actually just Kriya Yoga in itself, but you need to be able to tap into that energy system. So it's the same thing if you've got Buddhist meditation breathing techniques, that'll do the same thing. Or the Tao Te Ching, the monks over there that use their breathing techniques, it's the same thing. But you need to be able to open up the Sushumna channel to allow for the energy to flow up the straight and narrow path up to the third eye, and then eventually to the crown chakra. So, I began doing normal types of meditation, and basically it's going to be a benefit, but you're only going to get so far. And then that's where I noticed when I did Kriya Yoga, basically, and started to control the breath, things transformed in a huge way. And basically you can perceive things in a different way, and you can actually do things twice as fast. That's what I noticed with Kriya Yoga. But we've all got karma from a past life, and not all of us are here to be mastering Kriya Yoga. So we've got to begin somewhere. And for me, what I advise people that ask me, what should I do to practice meditation? Well, meditation goes hand in hand with concentration. So my advice is to practice improving your concentration. So the technique I use is staring at a doorknob. So basically every night for about 10 minutes at the same time, focus on staring at a doorknob, and you'll see how powerful your concentration is. Most people are stuck in the past of thinking what they did yesterday, or they're thinking of what they're doing tomorrow. They can't be stuck in the present moment where our power resides. So basically practicing staring at the doorknob and then journaling what your experience was afterwards will help you to navigate through that process of removing all those thoughts every time you do it. So eventually, when you could be doing that for 2 months in a row, and then the thoughts disappear pretty quickly, and that doorknob eventually begins to disappear into the nothingness. And that's what, when you get to the advanced states of meditation, like through Kriya Yoga, you will perceive a milky white light, and you'll hear the divine Om sound, and you'll feel the frequency. And that's effectively what everyone wants to experience through meditation. And if you can do that by yourself, then you don't need a guru, or you don't need to do Kriya Yoga, but it's just a lot easier to learn the technique that way.
Yeah, this is fascinating, Ben, but I do have some questions, because I would like to think that I'm quite well along on my spiritual path. I feel that I connect to God, that I channel my writing through my heart, but I don't do this breath work. So now I'm like, well, are you telling me that I'm not connecting to God?
No, so what's happening here, like I said with the definition of God, God is Om. So that's the A, the U, and the M. So what most people are connecting to is God at a lower form. So God is in everything, but you're connecting to God either on the physical plane or the astral plane, but you're not connecting to God on the unmanifested plane, which can only be done by connecting through the sixth chakra and then the crown chakra. So in the third ventricle of the brain, if you can't get there through breath control, then you're not connecting directly to the unmanifested almighty creator. That's what I'm saying. That's what, but we're communicating with God because God's in everything, but at a lower form. That's all it is.
Okay. Where can we find out more about Kriya Yoga and this means to connect with the higher form of God?
In terms of me providing Kriya Yoga?
Well, are there YouTube links? Where would you send someone who wants to find out more?
So Kriya Yoga there's an organization. So kriyayoga.org is the website. And there's a lineage that comes all the way from Babaji. And Babaji, there's an unbroken lineage that have all been enlightened masters all the way down to the current guru, which is Paramahansa Prajnananda. And basically he teaches the monks that are around the ashrams located throughout the world. There's one in Australia in Sydney, and basically every year they do initiations to initiate the disciples into that technique, and that's how you practice that technique. And through Paramahansa Prajnananda as the guru, then the way they describe it, to reach enlightenment, 50% comes from the guru and 50% comes from your practice and devotion to God. And so it's like a bank that has a safe, and you've got the main key, and then you've got a key from someone working at the bank. So the guru provides 50%, and your devotion and your practice is the other 50%.
Okay, well, I have more questions, if that's okay.
Okay.
I thought, number one, is Kriya Yoga affiliated with any religion?
No. So Kriya Yoga is basically open to everyone. So for me, if Kriya Yoga was religious, then I'd be running the other way, because I'm not religious at all. So Kriya Yoga is effectively a breathing technique, and Kriya Yoga is the breathing technique prescribed in the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, in the scriptures, as the technique that they use to reach enlightenment or samadhi. Doesn't mean you have to use that technique, but it's the technique that they used to reach enlightenment. That's what it is.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And I have a little bit of uncomfortability around the word guru, because I like to think we have a direct line to God. We don't have to do it via a third person.
Yeah, I can clarify that. So basically, the role of the guru is to connect with our inner guru, which is Christ. Okay, so I look at the analogy for the spiritual path to reach enlightenment is like climbing a mountain. So just think of climbing Mount Everest, for example. All right. So when you climb Mount Everest, most people would have a guidebook, and that's what the scriptures are. So the scriptures are the guidebook to get you on the journey, and then you'd have an experienced guide that's already climbed the mountain. That is the guru. So the guru is the one that's already enlightened and has climbed the mountain. But you can also use someone that's done a lot of the climb already. So basically, doesn't have to be fully enlightened, but they'll help you to climb most parts of that mountain. And so basically, that's what the guru's role is. And then you've got the breath is the climb. So that's the breathing technique, is actually climbing up Jacob's ladder, which is the breath, climbing the mountain up to the sixth chakra, and then eventually the 7 stages of samadhi. That's going from the sixth chakra up to the crown chakra to then get the purple rain. And that's what enlightenment is. So basically, the guru is only there to connect us with our inner guru. And you'll notice that there's been other sages and enlightened beings, and one is Sri Anandamayi Ma. She didn't have any guru, so she did all this herself. So that's showing that you don't actually need that guru. But it's like with anything, if you've got a really good teacher that's teaching you something, then most people are going to get the benefit of that teacher to help them with what they're doing. But doesn't mean that's for everyone. So I hope that clarifies your question there.
Thank you. So there's only this one website where people can go to find out Kriya Yoga and connect, if they choose to, with the gurus. Is that correct?
That's correct. Because Kriya, it's a secret technique. They don't just give away this information willy-nilly, and you need to be a qualified disciple. So you got to show them that you actually are devoted to this path, because that's the number one thing for spiritual evolution is not the practice. It's the devotion and love towards God. And if you don't have that, then it doesn't matter how much practice that you have, there's only so far you're going to get. So you've got divine love for God is number one. It trumps everything else. Second is the practice. And then you've got the knowledge that turns into applied knowledge, and then you get the state of wisdom. That's the steps of the spiritual path.
Okay, one last question, then we better move on to other subjects. Does it cost money?
To only the actual initiation is, there's a once-off fee of a couple of $100, and there's a ceremony that is almost like a baptism ceremony of purification of the chakras. But other than that, it's all donation based, and that's it.
So someone could come in, and if they don't donate, are they felt that they need to donate? Is there pressure to donate?
Well, I don't know if you could. I think if someone didn't have any money, I'm sure if they actually spoke to whoever was the head of the organization and said, look, I don't have any money at all, I'm sure they'd allow those people in and to be initiated. But it's the time and the cost of the monk that's actually staying at the ashram to then come and do that initiation. If they've got to travel and so forth, then there's just costs associated with that.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of parallels there to religion that I'm just a little uncomfortable with, but I really appreciate you sharing your story. Is there anything else you want to say around that to clarify?
Well, basically, I see where you're coming from, but it's just Kriya yoga is just a breathing technique. You're not tied down to any type of religion or way of doing things. It's just a breathing technique that's going to help you to become enlightened, which is the whole point in actually being here. And so when you read the scriptures and you decode what they're actually saying, the meaning of those scriptures, you realize that there is only one way out of here, and that way is the way of the straight and narrow. And that's what they say, Jesus is the way, because Jesus is the way. It's Jesus, the Christ within, and that's raising the chrism oil. And raising the chrism oil is required for the breathing technique as well. So if you are practicing heavenly virtues and you're eating an alkaline diet, that chrism oil can actually rise up to where it should be to put oil in the lamp at the sixth chakra, and then eventually you become illuminated to become the light of the world. But you also need the breath control and meditation to be able to help that rise up to the sixth chakra as well. So if you're not going to be doing the breath control, then you're not going to be raising the chrism oil, and you're not going to be illuminated, and you're not going to be the light of the world. So basically, when you get to the end of this life, you're just going to be reincarnating around the samsara wheel and coming in and learning the same lessons again. That's effectively what it is.
Okay, very interesting. Let's move on. In your adulthood, Ben, what would you say was your rock bottom moment?
Rock bottom moment for me was
happening.
Yep. So 2015, so this is when I just broke up with my ex-girlfriend and left my business, and once again escaping again. And I went away to Everest Base Camp in the Himalayas in Nepal. And it was an 18-day trek and a little bit of climbing. And I did no preparation for it and was carrying my own pack. And I suffered high altitude sickness pretty early on the journey. And basically, my ego kept forcing me to go up further and further. And so I continually did so and got sicker and sicker. And then it got to the point where I reached Everest Base Camp and it was nighttime, and I started going delusional and was suffering from high altitude sickness, and my head felt like it was in a vice. And then I had a guide with me, and she said, "We got to go down now, otherwise you're going to die." And so I didn't know what was going on, and they put a headlamp on for me, and that's carry the pack down for about 4 or 5 hours, and that pressure released. And then basically I was okay. And then by the time I got down to Kathmandu, I thought, okay, I'd finished this journey. I was staying an extra couple of days and I was going to relax. And then that very next day was the earthquake in Nepal that killed 10,000 people. So I was stuck in that earthquake, and basically, it took 3 or 4 days to be evacuated. And then my body completely shut down and I became very sick. And then I eventually got back home and just couldn't cope. And so the body just shut down, health deteriorated, suffered brain fog, chronic fatigue, and all sorts of issues. And then from that moment is when I had to learn everything about holistic health, to heal all those wounds and those traumas, which that led me to plant medicine and fasting, and then completely changing my diet to eventually becoming mainly raw and a frugivore type lifestyle. So that was the hardest point for me in my life.
Yeah, now this is great. Let's get into each of these, expand on each of these topics. So plant medicine. Give us a rundown of what you used and what effect it had on you, please.
Okay, so plant medicine, I've used psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms, San Pedro, which is the grandfather medicine, ayahuasca, which is the grandmother medicine, and Kambo, which is the frog medicine. Now, plant medicine only allows us to tap into the astral plane. And as I mentioned earlier, the astral plane is the middle plane. It's not the highest unmanifested form where the creator resides. So basically, you're only going to get so much healing from plant medicine. But in relation to healing traumas, if someone has suffered a lot of trauma, then plant medicine is really good. And that helped me a lot in my healing journey, because the astral plane is where the mind is. So all those traumas are stuck there. So you can tap into that astral plane to then heal those traumas. So plant medicine, the number one for me that helped me out was Kambo, the frog medicine. It's a fire medicine. And what happens is you get nauseated, and basically you then purge. And so you go in there with an intention to release these traumas from your childhood or even adult years. And so I had a lot of release and healing from those, from Kambo especially, but also San Pedro and ayahuasca was really good. But psilocybin, I just didn't get too much out of that. It was just more like a recreational type feeling I felt for that.
Right, interesting. So do you still use them, or did you use them just to heal specific trauma and then you didn't need them anymore?
Yeah, so I'm not guided to use plant medicine anymore. I feel as it only goes up to the astral plane, that once you've healed those traumas, then it's only through meditation that you can connect to the unmanifested reality. And that is where the unmanifested God, the creator, will then purify your mind and your thoughts. So in terms of doing them again, no, because I get more out of the Kriya yoga meditation than I would by taking the plant medicine.
Right. Okay. So what else did you mention? You said plant medicine, fasting. Okay. Tell us about your journey into fasting, please.
Yeah, so years ago when I had the health crisis, I found out that my cells were cancerous. And back when I didn't know too much about health, my mum suffered from cancer 4 times and had many operations, and she wasn't supposed to survive, but she did. And my ex-girlfriend's mother died from cancer as well. So we had quite a few traumas in relation to that. And so when that hit me when I was working in the corporate world, it was a shock to the system, thinking that, oh, I've got, cancer here that I need to do something about it. And knowing that I lived a life that was very toxic, so took a lot of recreational drugs, also had pharmaceutical drugs when I was younger, and I was eating junk food for most of my life, and soft drinks and chocolates and so forth. So basically,
So
yep,
how old were you when you got the diagnosis?
I was in my 30s.
Right. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah. So I was in my 30s, and my entire 20s was just toxic. There was no eating fruit or vegetables. It was just all processed foods. And then getting that diagnosis and working in the corporate world, I had my own business at the time, I started to lose a lot of energy. And basically, I came across the book by Andres Moritz, which was The Amazing Gallbladder and Liver Cleanse and the Timeless Secrets of Health. And in those books, he talked about 4 things that contribute to all diseases. And he was talking about the liver stones and the gallstones. He was talking about kidney stones, dehydration, and then all the toxicity coming from heavy metals and pesticides and so forth. And then he said that all our filtering organs are all clogged up, like the liver and the kidneys, and basically we need to do a full cleanse of the body. And then I began that journey by doing the liver and the gallbladder cleanses over a period of a year. I did 13 of them, and that removed thousands of stones. And then I did the kidney cleanse, which is drinking herbal tea for a month at a time. And then when you're doing that, you want to be purely plant-based during that process. So I did the kidney cleanses, which was very toxic. And what I say about these cleanses is, and why most people don't do them, is because you're that tired that you need time off, so you can't be working in a job. It took me two to 3 years of full commitment to these cleanses, and then fasting, juice fasting, and then water fasting, to be able to cleanse my body, to be able to operate efficiently without any stimulants, because I was addicted to having coffee, for example. And coffee means that you've got a deficiency in minerals, and so then you need to balance the minerals within your body. And so it's just, but to do that, you need your inside filtering organs need to be functioning properly, and so is your small intestine, so you can assimilate these minerals throughout the cells of the body. And see, none of this was working for me, and so I needed 2 to 3 years to be able to fully cleanse the body.
Okay, so what happened with your cancer?
Well, what I did was they wanted me to go down another path, and I just walked out the door and said, I'll be doing this myself. And so I never went back and saw anyone, because I wasn't going to be taking on a diagnosis from anyone. I then learned that health is a state of mind. So basically I had to reprogram all my beliefs in relation to health, and then to use the natural elements to fuel my body. And that's another thing that I'd actually like to talk about now is, in relation to health, we think of food as the number one source for optimal health. And if you ask that question and say to people, what do you think are the 2 most important things for having a healthy lifestyle, people will say food, eating food. And most people won't say the breath, breathing, and meditation. So breathing and meditation is number 1 for health. And the reason being is that we're all an eightfold of nature. So when we were created, there was the ego was created first, then the intellect, and then the mind. And then there was the 5 elements which relate to the chakras. So you've got the throat chakra, which is the ether. Then you've got the air, which relates to the heart. Then you've got the fire, which relates to the solar plexus. Then you've got the water element, which relates to the sacrum. And then the earth is the root chakra. Now, in relation to that, the forms of food, the lowest form is the earth element. And the earth element is only the minerals. So our body only requires the minerals from the earth. And then that's where you get people that become breatharians, because they only take the source of fuel from the air that we breathe. And then the higher yogis can actually live off the ether. And that's through these breathing techniques, because they, some of them can actually be buried alive. And that proves that they don't actually need the air that they breathe. They're surviving off the ether. So that's in the stages of what food and energy we require for ourselves. It's in that order. And it's only the minerals that we require. Don't need vitamins. We don't need to eat meat, dairy, or eggs. It's the minerals from plants is all that we need.
Yeah, this is great because, I've also been following Justin and Charlie Freak for quite a while. And I also, over the past 12 months, have progressed to, I reckon, probably about 85% fruit diet. Occasionally I feel like a bowl of pasta, but, apart from that, unless a piece of chocolate is put in front of me, I don't go out and buy it anymore. So I'm totally with you on this journey of fruit. So, how did you change your diet then? Did you do it? Did you, like, first, for example, cut out meat, and then, you didn't jump straight from a SAD diet, standard American diet, to fruit, I'm sure, right?
No, it's very, very hard to do that, and I wouldn't advise that at all.
Yeah, take us through that journey, please.
Yeah, so for me, I cut out red meat first and just ate chicken and fish, and then eventually I cut away the fish and the chicken, and then basically there's still a lot of cooked meals like chickpeas and curries and all that type of stuff, and then eventually, because it's hard to digest the fruit when you first begin to eat it. If you've got parasites in the body and pathogenic bacteria, then your body gets very bloated. So it's very hard to digest that fruit. So for me, and it's important to do a parasite cleanse and to have all those filtering organs working properly before you actually are primarily on fruit. So yeah, and then what happens when we become a vegan, we start eating all this vegan food, but a lot of it's actually not that good for us. So we have all these grains and all these other foods, and everyone's is then saying, well, I'm not feeling that good because you're still eating junk food. We should only be eating vegetables and the fruit, which is what's good for us. So that's the problem we face. And then you've got all the hormones and the neurotransmitters need to be rebalanced in that process. And you've got like the hunger hormone ghrelin, for example, that'll flare its way up. And you've got all these other hormones that get balanced through fasting. And that's why juice fasting and water fasting is the optimum for rebalancing the body.
Yeah. How often do you fast now?
I haven't done fasting for a while, but I used to do fasting quite a bit. It's just because the environment I'm at the moment is not that great. So I don't want to put too much pressure on the body, because fasting puts a lot of pressure. You want to be relaxing a lot. But yeah, I'd be fasting 3 or 4 times a year. The longest fast I've done is 21 days. And then that was a juice fast, and then a 2-week water fast is the longest for that.
Yeah, take us through that for people who haven't fasted. How did you feel at the end of it? How did you feel, for example, on day 3, day 7? Take us through the feelings of going through, say, a fast of 21 days.
Okay, so the fast I did for 21 days was a juice fast, and a juice fast for me was actually okay. It's the water fast that was the challenge for me. So with the juice fast, typically with anyone, the 3rd day is always the hardest day. And then once you get past day 3 and go to day 4, you get a release of energy. It's like ketosis type state where you release that energy and you feel really, really good. And then I noticed that from day 4, all the way to day 21 was the same, and I felt great. I actually didn't want to end the fast, but it was only because I had to come back. I was living in Melbourne at the time, and I had to come back for a funeral in Perth, and so I had to break the fast to come back here, and so that's why I did it. But in relation to juice fasting is okay. It's the water fasting that's the problem, where you become very depleted, very tired. And when I did my water fast, I actually collapsed a few times because I wanted to do a bit of exercise. And that just meant that my body was very toxic, and there was a lot of poisons in the bloodstream that needed to be removed. And because the filtering organs weren't working that well, it was just putting more pressure on the body.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for people who are wanting to start fasting? How do they start?
If you want to start fasting, just start with intermittent fasting. So basically, extend well, breakfast is breaking the fast. So basically, extend the break fast to like lunchtime, for example, and then you might close off eating at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then don't eat until lunchtime. And then basically that gives time for your internal organs to heal and to give more energy for the liver to do its thing and all the other organs. And then to eventually, begin with 1 day and then 2 days and then 3 days, and then feel what your intuition is asking for and just take that as a guidance. But in relation to with juice fasting, I just don't see there being, it being too hard on anyone, even that's come from that toxic lifestyle like I had. You won't have too many problems at all. It's more actually what to do when you're breaking the fast. If you're doing a long fast for, say, 2 or 3 weeks, then you can't be breaking that with a hamburger or something that's very heavy, because that can actually kill you, and it has actually killed certain people that have done the fast. So you need to be introducing it with easily digestible fruits for, it could be, depending on how long the fast is, it might be 3 or 4 days of introducing those fruits, and then salads, and then eventually the heavier type of foods.
Yeah, and that's really important. So thanks for the clarity around that. How's your health now? What are you like? How old are you, and your physical state of being? How long have you been mainly on fruit?
Mainly on fruit for last 3 years. For me, how old do you think I am?
Oh, I don't know, 40s, 45?
Yeah, so 45 this year. Yeah. So basically, health is good. I still not quite there yet to the optimum health. Where I'm staying now has got a bit of mold, so it affects my sinuses. I'm allergic to mold, so as in most people, but for me, it affects me more than others, and that's why at the moment I haven't been doing much fasting, because of with COVID, it threw a few curveballs that changed my course of what I was doing. So I just had to, to move back to a place that isn't that comfortable.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask a question for the men here. You obviously look like you're not fading away from just eating fruit. Do you work out? You've got a pretty bulky physique there. How do you balance just eating fruit and getting your protein and working out? Talk to the men that are watching that maybe are thinking, oh, but I need meat for protein.
Yeah, so it's even the protein theory is a myth as well. Basically, it's more a mindset. If you believe that you need meat for protein, then basically that the mind creates those conditions for the body that requires that. So for me, if you take away all those pressures and the stresses and actually change your belief system, then you're just you're just eating for fuel. And I look at it as that fruit is the best form of fuel anyway. So for me, I used to go to the gym a lot, but I stopped going when COVID hit. And basically all I do now is just do a bit of exercise and stair running and walking. But I don't notice any like substantial loss of weight or even for muscle degeneration or anything like that. As long as you're having enough fruit, and as long as your small intestine is working properly, which is something you need to look at, because if you're not assimilating the minerals from the fruit, then basically you'll have a problem and you'll start losing weight.
Yeah. And I just want to throw in too, because I say I've been on this journey to colonics. I don't know if you've dealt with that, but that's also a great way to clean out your system and enable to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients that you need from the fruit that you're eating.
Yeah, I've done the colonics with doing the liver cleanses. It's important because when those stones come out, you don't want them clogged up in the colon. So basically, I did do them, but doing some research. So Dr. Sebi is one of the guys that I follow in his alkaline diet. He doesn't recommend the colon hydrotherapies or any enemas or anything like that. So basically, I'm just a bit weary on them now.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right. So we've got about half an hour left. What else would you like to talk about?
Yeah. So basically, natural versus normal, really. We are normalized in society now, and we're not aligned with the natural rhythm of life. And basically, we're programmed to be sinners, and we're told that we're not good enough, and basically there's nothing we can do about it. And I just want to talk about what what I feel sinning actually is. And sinning to me is impurity of the body and the mind. So basically, you're not. This life is not fully devoted to the Creator. You're not actually believing that it's the soul that's breathing life into your body. Sinning is also not breathing properly, because if we're actually we have 50 breaths and only one breath is spiritual. If we're not breathing properly, then we're actually not aligning ourselves with these natural laws. And sinning is obviously the 7 deadly sins, which are the attachments to the lower chakra centers, the attachments to like material possessions, to sex, to food, and to emotions. So basically, we are just sinning through life, and then we are told there's nothing we can do about it. So then we just go and drink more alcohol, or we watch sport, or do all these other things to escape reality, when what we should be doing is going within and connecting to our soul through the breath. And once we get to those higher states of consciousness, we can then purify the mind and those traumas that we have trapped within our subconscious mind. So basically, it's about not sinning anymore and living a goodly, godly life and practicing the heavenly virtues. And you look at, these days, it's normal to lie, whereas you should be telling the truth always. And you have, you look at all the influences, and a lot of them, I've dealt with marketing gurus over the years and ways that these people operate. And a lot of these influencers, they buy followers, or they buy the blue check mark, to make you look important. And so they just they're there just to make money, and they're not actually telling the truth. And so a lot of them, there was one guru that was saying for people to just to eat shit for, when you come out of high school, just eat shit, eat 2-minute noodles, and it's all about making money. And then once you've achieved success, then you can eat whatever you want, caviar, drink wine and so forth. And basically we are idolizing these people who are leading us down the wrong path. And it's, that's just living in hell effectively. And these people are just rational animals, and they're not actually, they'll be just coming back around the samsara wheel to learn the same lessons. So we're not being truthful in life. And basically, we've got it all backwards in what we're doing. We want status, we want fame, we want money, but all we really need is the connection to God, and that is through the breath. And it's the breath that creates the rhythm in life, and it's that rhythm. If you look at the actual the sun and the moon will teach you, and the night sky will show you exactly what we need to do on this earth. And that relates to the divine masculine and the feminine. You've got the sun, the masculine, creates the analema in the sky, the number 8. So the sun goes first. So it's like the divine dance in the sky, and just reference that to the actual a dance between a man and a woman. You've got the man that's the leader, and he leads the way. He creates the rhythm, and it's the female that follows the man's lead and the rhythm. And so basically it's the man that provides the space, and the woman's actually she creates the art within that space. And so you got to look at and also the sun actually gives a portion of its light to the moon, and it's like the divine masculine gives the sperm to the feminine. It's all about giving, receiving, providing the strength, the nurturing for the feminine, and that's the relationship. And basically the rhythm is the breath. That's where breath control comes in. That's providing the rhythm in life. And when a male can connect through his breath to his purpose, and then be a strong leader and continually show up every single day providing that same vibration, he'll eventually attract a female that will align with that rhythm. And you just need to look no further than the cricket in nature. And the cricket's the epitome of vibration. So the male cricket will just rub its 2 front wings together and make that noise until it attracts the female partner that suits it. And that's effectively how we need to look at that in our lives. Instead of chasing a female, the male needs to connect within, create the rhythm, which then creates heart coherence. And then by following his path, he'll then naturally attract a female that's in alignment with that frequency.
Yeah, this is so good. And I love that we've got into the masculine and feminine dynamics. So as you talk about that, I'm thinking, wow, from what you said, you didn't get a very good example of, let's call it, seeing you're using the phrases divine masculinity and femininity in your parents. So, and maybe even inverted, as you said, one character, maybe your mum, I think you mentioned your dad was carrying maybe more feminine, your mum more masculine. So what's been your journey now to come into healthy masculinity?
Yeah, so for me, I took on my mother's victim mentality. And so my previous 2 long-term relationships, I was the victim and got walked all over. And so it was hard because of seeing, obviously, my mother being physically abused by my father, then it was hard for me to want to stand up for myself, because I could never come anywhere close to doing what he did. You know what I mean? So it was, for me, it was just taking it. It's like, oh, I'm angry, but I'm just not going to do anything. I couldn't express myself properly. And that's what I found with my father. He couldn't express himself properly. And because he had a wounded masculine from his parents, the only way he could get any form of control was to get angry and then to physically abuse. So that's what I learned from him. And my mum was taking over that masculine role, which was very awkward, and you could just see why they were fighting all the time. And so then in my life, I had to really learn, and I didn't the first time, because I went from one relationship straight away to another relationship and didn't heal. And now I've been single for a reason, because I would have just attracted a similar relationship where I would have been hurt again. But now I know, what the divine masculine stands for. And so I need to be clear of, what my boundaries are, and that it's okay to speak up, but you just don't need to be aggressive. You need to be firm and actually get your point of view across. And it's all about the communication. So, yeah, it's basically seeing those balances that were out of balance, and then to making a healthy relationship between the two.
So you mentioned divine masculine values, and we spoke about now communication and men standing up for themselves firmly without anger or aggression, maybe with assertiveness. What other values do you consider as divine masculine?
Well, they have to be a leader. If there's no leadership, then the female is actually going to take over that leadership role. And so then that, all of a sudden, the balance is tipped again. And then that's, what happened with my dad, not showing no leadership. Mum takes over, and then he feels suppressed. And then the only way for him to get control or to feel good is to get angry. And that's his way of manipulation of the situation. So the most important thing, for a masculine is showing that leadership, showing that strength, showing the truth, and actually living a life that is aligned with what your soul wants to do and not what other people want to do. So you need to be doing all those things. And then if you're not doing those things, and then you attract a female into your life, it's only going to last for so long, because you're not being true to yourself. And then there's going to be fights. And then eventually you don't want to continue putting the mask on anymore. And then, because that's what you see with most relationships, people putting the mask on, pretending they're someone they're not. And then there's the honeymoon period. 2 years goes by, that honeymoon period's over. They take the mask off. I'm actually not this type of person. And then the other partner's saying, well, you were like this for 2 years, so what's happened? And it's because they weren't being authentic. They weren't being true to themselves, and they were being really a coward, because they just wanted the easy way to try and pick up a female, when in fact they should be a true leader and strong and firm in their convictions on what they stand for, no matter what the female wants. And then you'll eventually attract a female that aligns with that frequency.
Yeah, this is great. And while we're at it, what do you consider to be the divine feminine values then?
So divine feminine she's the nurturer. And so she's the receiver. So the masculine is providing for the feminine, but then that gets out of balance when the female just expects. She expects money, she expects material possessions, and that gets out of control. but the divine feminine is the one that looks after the house. Basically, she controls that reality while the masculine is actually going about and doing, what his life purpose is. So I see the feminine is looking after the house. She's the nurturer. She's the one that, in the dance, she's the one that becomes the prom queen, because she's the one that has that creativity and that spark. It's not the man provides that, and he's going to provide that space for the female to be able to shine. And so that's how I see that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Beautiful, Ben. How do you see the inner union of divine masculine and femininity within a man?
Okay, I see this slightly different to most people. And you look at, in terms of the actual divine masculine and the divine feminine, you've got the masculine, which relates to the Pingala channel inside. It also relates to the pineal gland, and you've got the feminine relates to the Ida channel, and it relates to the pituitary gland. And then you've got the two should be balanced, and that's when the Sushumna, which is the middle path, is the middle channel that only opens up when there's balance of the divine masculine of the Pingala and the divine feminine of the Ida, and that is when the Sushumna channel opens up to go directly up to the third eye. Because if you've got the Ida channel, just say you're breathing through your nostril, which represents the Ida channel, if that is 52% of the breath goes through that nostril, then that represents slothfulness or idleness. And the opposite, which is the masculine, represents restlessness. So basically, through breath control and through alternate nostril breathing is when you balance the breath that goes through the nostrils, and you balance the divine masculine and the feminine within, and you allow for the spiritual channel to open up in the Sushumna, which is the straight and narrow path. And so that's where you need the perfect balance of the divine masculine energy within with the actual the feminine, where most people, they say, oh, because you're a male, you need 51% divine masculine within. But I actually don't see it that way. I see there's physical traits like we talked about, but the internal energies actually need to be 50-50. You see?
Okay. Yep. Got it. A lot of polarity teachers are teaching that, men need to be 80-70%, but you're saying 50-50 on the dot.
With the energies within. Yeah, the energies, so the Ida and the Pingala and the whole functionality of that needs to be 50-50.
Got it. Thank you. Where do you see men and masculinity heading over the next 10 years on planet Earth?
Well, it's not in a very good state at the moment, because you look at what's normal in a man, and it's the opposite of what it should be. And we're seeing at even a young age now where they're allowing for men to get sex changes, for example. So you're looking, and then the opposite for the females. So you're getting these sex changes, and what it is just it's a program from the people that are programming society with all this garbage that is teaching us that it's okay to be a cat, or it's okay to be neutral, or it's okay to be whatever you want to be. But in reality, a man is a man, and a woman has got a womb. So it's coming back to being natural. And at the moment, we're not. Everything's normalized. So in the future, I see it all toppling down anyway. So within the next few years, I just see the truth's going to come out about everything, and that basically we should be aligned with what's natural, and that is being a man or being a woman. Yeah. So I don't actually see it lasting that long. I see when the truth comes out, basically it will all change, because we just need to reprogram our belief system. And who's been giving us these beliefs over the years, from the higher powers, that's going to change.
Okay, awesome. So after this collapse, what do you envision, say, in 20 years? Where will men and masculinity be on planet Earth?
Well, I see it actually being quite healthy. I see men are actually going to be aligned, with their heart and what their life purpose is, and they're going to be doing everything in their power to create heaven on earth. And basically, what that will look like is most females, once they know the truth, they won't want to be working in these jobs that they're doing at the moment. And what I see them is living more a community type lifestyle, and they're taking on their nurturing roles and a family life. And basically men will be building those communities and making it a safe space for their women and also the children. So that's what I see in the next 20 years. It's going to be going back to the community type living.
Yeah, and some are already happening now, right? And I know you said to me before we started recording, it's something you're considering doing yourself, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
In the next few years, but I love to travel around just to get some ideas and see what other people are doing.
Yeah, fascinating, and definitely the way ahead. I totally agree. Where does the heart come into all this, Ben?
Well, the heart, love is, related to the heart, and that's our baseline vibrational frequency is love. So, and love is the heart chakra is the fourth out of the seventh, so that's the middle way. So it's connecting to the middle, which is the mother as well, which is Mother Earth, and she rules this earth. So we want to make sure that we're not always high up in the clouds. Even when we're meditating, we're going up here, we want to come back to the heart to be able to be connected to the Mother Earth and to live according to those natural laws. So basically, the heart is, but one thing to look at with the heart is, because it's one of the lower five chakras, it also has demonic qualities attached to the lower part of the heart. So we can be caught up with pride and hypocrisy and some of these demonic qualities. So we're just going to make sure that the heart is actually balanced.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us from your extensive knowledge and experience that we haven't touched on?
So we've gone through the breath control. Gratitude is something I wanted to talk about. The importance of gratitude, because gratitude is the highest form of thought. So you look at, I don't know if you've seen it, like a vibrational frequency chart, where you have, death is 0 and 1,000 is like enlightenment, and you have gratitude that would be around 700 on that chart. So when we're in any thought form, gratitude is the highest form of that frequency. So when we're living our day, we've got to be in gratitude in every single moment. So we're going to be at a higher frequency. And then if you can't be in a state of gratitude and out of the flow of life at the same time. So you look at, if you're not in a state of gratitude, you're in a state of resistance. So then it's one or the other, isn't it? So if you're in a state of resistance, then you're going to come up with problems in your life. So the only way and you're not in the flow of life. So the only way out of that is to change your perception and to change your state of mind so you're in a state of gratitude. So even if a lesson is hard or tough, still be grateful for it. So just change your perception about the way you see everything in life. Even the people that abused you, you say, I'm grateful for the lessons that they gave me. And as soon as you change your perception about everything in life, then your life changes. So then those events don't have any power over you anymore. Nothing that happened to me as a child has any power. Nothing that happened with my ex-relationships. I love them unconditionally for the lessons that they gave me. And so it's just gratitude. And so gratitude is the key to transforming your life. Gratitude and breath control.
Yeah, and I love how you explain this, because I was going to say, could you please talk to the men who maybe, they're in a really challenging rock bottom moment, and, they're thinking, well, why should I be grateful for, losing my wife and my business, and he's sitting still dependent on alcohol? What do you say to those men?
Well, it's about knowing thyself and knowing what this purpose of life on earth is. And so from looking at the scriptures and everything over the years, I've come to my conclusion that we come onto this earth with an aggregated balance sheet of our past life karma. So when you know that, the stage is set. So if we've got lessons that we haven't learned from a past life, then the universe is going to create those conditions. So you will choose your parents, and they will create the conditions for you to experience that pain to be in alignment with that frequency from the past life. So then you got to say, well, okay, I'm connecting the dots here. I know what this life's about, and that I've got lessons to learn, and that I had to go through those lessons as a child, but God loves me so much that has given me the tools to be able to rectify these mistakes. So then if you change your perception about everything and how you view life, then all of a sudden, you're looking at these events and it's like, well, these are happening for me, for my benefit, so I can evolve. So I got physically abused, yes, because something obviously happened in my past life and I had to experience that. And then when I became an adult, I was a victim. I had to experience that. But then I was given the tools to be able to do something about it. And then I had a choice to make. Was I going to do something about it or not? And a lot of people don't. You got to have the courage to work through these problems. And so it takes a lot of courage and a lot of pain to work through to get to the other side. And on the other side is this joy state, this happiness. And so then you get an appreciation for what those lessons gave you, and what that pain, what was all about. It was about what's on the other side, the joy and the happiness that you got from dealing with your problems, because we're in that dualistic world. So there's good and bad. So how would you know what good was if there was no bad? You know what I mean? So when you connect it all together, life actually is not complicated, and then you can step back and just be the observer, and then you're not attached to any situation. And that's where you need to get to. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. You stay not attached to the situation, and you just see it as a part of life playing out. And I'm on the journey to climb the mountain, and that is through practicing the heavenly virtues and breath control. And that's how I see life.
Oh, so beautifully explained. Brilliant. Thank you, Ben. I loved it. And I'm in total agreement with it all from my own experience. Right. Where can people find you, please?
Yeah, so I'm on Telegram at the moment, and I've got a channel, the Divine 52 Intervention. That's it at the moment, but I am working on other things that'll come out sometime this year. Great. When I move to this. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll drop that link in the description below. And could you please deliver a final message to men, Ben? What do you want to say to men that are struggling, having a hard time at the moment?
to actually focus on the breath, to surrender, to say that I can't actually do this by myself anymore. I need to surrender this situation over to God or Creator or whatever you want to call God, universe, and say, what I did in the past is not working, that I need to make changes, and I'm surrendering all of this over to God, and basically I need a solution presented for me so I can take that first step on the journey towards self-evolution.
So
That's
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an amazing, fascinating conversation. I loved it. I loved hearing all the pieces of the puzzle on your own journey. And also, you have so much to contribute from your experience to other men that are watching. And of course, there's plenty of women that watch as well. So thank you so much, Ben. It's been an honor to have you here.
And I appreciate what you're doing and sharing the message and connecting to the heart and for all the men. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Everyone, thanks for watching. If you could like, share, subscribe, and make sure you check out Ben's Telegram channel because it's pretty cool. Okay, I'll see you all next time on Heart Warriors. Bye.